Right, so we've got all the necessary bits of kit we need for our fly fishing outfit. What I'm going to show you now is actually how to put a fly line onto a fly reel. Now it's actually a lot more simple than you think. A lot of people think that it's far too technical, but I'm going to show you a way to make this nice and easy and keep it simple. What we're going to need to be able to do this is our fly reel, our fly line, the all handy super glue, some backing, some braided loops, a fly rod, some leader material, a pen and a pair of scissors. What I need to do is pull the reel apart. All you've got to do is pull the spool away from the cage. We then got to get our backing, and the idea is that I need to now attach the backing using a knot onto the fly line. So I'm going to show you how to do this. Right, to make this nice and easy, what I'm going to do is actually give myself plenty of free backing so it's nice and loose. And I need to do a few turns around the spool. This is going to stop the backing from actually slipping around the spool, so that actually when you wind, that it's actually going to catch and it's not going to keep on spinning round endlessly without actually feeding onto the reel. I'm now going to give myself enough of a tag end so that I've got plenty of room for manoeuvrability. So if I bring this forward, I'm going to create the lines going underneath itself and around, so in order to create a nice big open loop. What I'm then going to do is then thread the tag end through itself and pull it tight. This will then create a slip knot. Now there are no other knots that you can use for this, but this is my preference. This is what I find easy. I then, with the tag end, I'm just going to create a granny knot in order to actually put a stopper in the line. What you sometimes can find is if you pull it tight, with it only being a small knot in the kinked in the line, is that it will slip through and it will actually it will pull apart. So I always put two in just as an insurance policy. That way I've got a bit more surface area and it tends to not slip through the actual loop itself. So I'm then going to pull it slowly down onto the spool, and you just got to pull and just keep the reel nice and loose in your hand and it will do its own thing. From there, I'm just going to give it a nice tight pull. What you don't want to do is pull on this too quick or too hard, because otherwise the friction will just heat the backing and snap it. So pull it nice and steady, and what you'll find is it will clamp down nice and tight and it will be really strong like so. So I'm putting a lot of pressure on there. I then want to get rid of any excess tag end. So I'm just going to get my pair of scissors and just chop as close down without kind of risking the accident of actually snipping the backing itself. There we go, it's nice and tidy. So I now can attach that back onto the cage and it's ready to wind on. And what I'm going to do is just actually attach the reel into the reel seat. This then allows me to feed the line on and wind it on nice and balanced, so I'm not going to end up kind of bulking up all the line in a certain area of the reel. I can feed it on nice and naturally. It gives me something to grip onto without it being too fiddly. Right, the problem I might come across here is if I try winding the line onto the spool with the backing being sat like this, is it's not coming off the spool the way it went on. What you actually might find, and it's the same for the principle for the fly line itself, is if I do that, what it will actually do is create memory, because the line's not coming off in the right direction. So what we need to do is actually put some kind of object that we can put through the middle of the spool itself and hold it nice and easy. So in this case I've got a pen, threaded it through the middle, and I'm going to hold it between my legs. What this will allow me to do is to have the reel, the spool of the backing facing upright, and therefore when I wind it's coming off the spool and onto the reel the same way that it's gone on. All I'm doing is just feeding this in back and forth in the reel, and I'm keeping everything nice and balanced. Right, now you may be wondering, how do we know how much backing is enough, or if it's too much? The idea is that there is a way around this. Now we need to get the reel back off again, and then also get our fly line. So I'm just going to grab that. In this case, it's a 5-weight fly line, so there's not a lot of bulk there, but the easiest way to do this is, you can see here, we've got the little wire twisters on here, and this stops the fly line from all pulling apart, so I suggest you leave them on there. And we're just literally going to release the spool itself. I just twisted that and it unlocked. And what we can do is just push the fly line against the reel like so. So you see how it's doubled up? We push it down like this, and it generally will give us a good idea of what it will look like, how the true effect of how it will look when it's on the line. So we're pretty much getting there. So the next thing we need to do is get our scissors and just snip the line like so, and we're good to go. Depending on the manufacturer of the fly line, you will find some fly lines come with welded loops already made on the actual line itself like so. So with this, you don't have the added pressure of having to actually connect the fly line to the backing itself using anything but a blood knot. You literally could just use a blood knot and tie that on and reel it straight on and you're ready to go. So what I'm going to do is show you the other way when you don't have the addition of doing that. Now, every fly line itself will actually have a little tag on it stating which side is the side that attaches to the backing. So it would say attach this end to backing. So we're going to pull this one off here, and considering it's on its spool, we're going to literally just pull the wire straps now because it's safe to do so, and undo them and just pull them out. Just undo them like so and pull them nice and slowly, and they'll usually just slip out. The knot we're going to use to attach the backing to the fly line is called a uni knot. In order to do this, I need to strip the coating of the fly line only about an inch or so, just so we can get through to the core. So what I'm going to do here is pull some line off of my spool. I've doubled it over like so. Now what I need to do is get a thumb and an index finger in between. So I'm still keeping hold of the other end, and then I'm just going to twist on the inside like so. Now what this does is it creates like a scissor loop here. I'm just going to catch it, and now I've got two loops at the end like that. So I've created a double loop like that. I'm now going to get my fly line, thread it through the middle of that loop, and just pull down nice and slowly. It's going to just tighten up there, and then all I've got to do is just use either hand and pull away on the line. So just get a nice firm grip so that you don't cut into your hand with the mono, and just pull nice and easy like so. Okay, to perform the uni loop, what we need to do is double the line up against itself, so the line and the backing is sat side by side, and give yourself plenty of tag end. What this will allow you to do is to do it nice and easy without actually being too fiddly. So with the backing end, I'm going to grab the tag, come over itself so I create a loop. I'm going to go over the top of the backing and the fly line, and then with the tag end just pull it through itself once, twice, 3 times. Okay? If you pull it nice and slowly, you should see that it all comes down nice and easy. Now if you pull it fast, what will happen is it will just embed too tight into the line and it won't slip. So you need to keep it loose enough that it can slip down so we can pull it tight. Now with the opposite end, so our fly line end, we're going to grab the tag end of the fly line, do the same again, and just only bring it through the once. That's all you really need for this knot. What I want to do here is just slip this knot as close to the end of the fly line before you get the core come into place. So, like so. And that's going to keep things nice and neat. So you can see there, I've only got a slight bit of core showing. And now, I'm going to grab both our main line backing end and the fly line end and pull them down together. What this is going to do is just slip them down onto each other. Now, it always helps with any knot just to moisten it. So just literally wet it ever so slightly and give each tag end a bit of a pull just to tighten it down again. Now again, pull on the backing and the fly line, and it will create a nice solid knot there with a lot of strength there that's not going to let you down when you're out fishing. And I want to get rid of any excess tag end and just cut it off to keep things nice and even so that I've got a small surface area there. Like so. With the backing end, because it's slightly harder to cut, just get a bit of tension then, it will help cut it. There we go, you've got a nice low profile strong knot there it's going to hold and it's not going to let you down. Some people, just as an insurance policy, might want to put a bit of super glue there just to give it that extra strength, but me personally, I'm happy that it's going to do the job it needs to do. So it's a nice, strong, sturdy knot and low profile. So the next step, and it's pretty much our final stages, what we're going to do is we're going to put the fly line spool back onto a pen again, like we did with the backing, and thread it through, pop it between our legs again, and then from there reel on our fly line. It's important again that we spool the line on nice and level, so we've got a nice layout and it's nice and tidy, and we're going to just reel it on until we've got all the line on the spool. As you can see, I've left a small gap between the cage of the reel and the fly line. Now, I've done this deliberately so that I've left plenty of room for the line to come off and on the reel. We've got our final stage, and that's putting a braided loop onto a fly line. What I've done is I've actually moved the tubing up into the braided loop where it's threaded inside itself, so it's out of the way of the hollow section. Now with the fly line, I need to get the end of our fly line and just thread it inside the hollow tubing, so like so. And as you can see, this one's going to go up nice and easy, but sometimes you might have to coax it in. So the best way to do that is just pinch with your thumb and index finger on the braided loop and push it towards the fly line end, and then with the opposite hand that's holding the fly line, pull away. So you're going push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, like so, and it will just thread the line up nice and easy, and you just work it up to the point here where we meet the hard part of the braided loop, so it's no longer hollow, and slide our tubing down to the end. Now where the tubing comes into play is it stops the end of our braided loop from flaring, so you don't get any snaggy bits that the line can get caught around. So you just pull it down onto the end and it keeps everything nice and clean. And adding some super glue, it's just going to be an insurance policy. It's just going to anchor it in nice and tight. So with this stuff here, it's got a nice easy brush, so I can do it nice and clean, and I don't apply much. It's literally just either side of the tube. Now if you do it very carefully and you just dab it a few times, it will actually suck itself inside the tube, so it will go all the way down, and then you get a nice anchor point, so it's going to stay nice and stuck and you don't get any problems. Again, I apply it one more time, and I'm just going to apply it to where the fly line and the braided loop meet there. And then what that's going to do is just anchor that in even tighter again. Generally, you've only got to leave it for about 3 to 5 minutes and it will be dry, and then you're ready to go fishing. So all we need to do now, as soon as this is dry, is attach our fly line on our fly and go out and catch some fish.
Thanks for watching Wilderness TV. So on our next video, we're going to do something I've always wanted to do, tie our own fly. Then we're going to take that fly out and catch a monster fish. See you on the next video.